Welcome back. In today's video, going to be going over the most recent morning consult numbers that just came out today. They interviewed 16,599 individuals, and those interviews were conducted between the dates of July 1st through the 7th of 2019. And after the first round of Democratic debates, we've seen this continuing trend where Joe Biden has faded a bit, and Kamala Harris, who many view as having the best overall debate performance, has seen a surge in her number. Also, more people becoming aware of her after those first round of debates, and it's becoming a situation where the top four candidates have separated themselves from the rest of the pack, and it feels like those are going to most likely be your 2020 Democratic nominee is going to be one of those top four candidates at this point in time between Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and Elizabeth Warren. All the other candidates are at mid to lower single digits. And it's just going to be hard to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. You're going to have a really strong debate performance, such as what we saw from Kamala Harris, for instance, and not easy to do, especially with so many people on the debate stage. So Joe Biden still in first place, 31% support, and he tends to do a bit better in these morning consult polls in contrast to other outlets, and that's because when the morning consult asks their question, they say, even if you're not committed to a candidate, who are you leaning towards supporting? And when you bundle those two groups together, it tends to really help Joe Biden out, and he's at 31% support in this one. Bernie Sanders has been very consistent week after week, where he's been hovering around 19% support in second place. Kamala Harris at 14%, Elizabeth Warren at 13%, and then all of the other candidates are at mid to lower single digits. We take a look at those early primary states, which include the states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. Joe Biden, the same number, 31% support. Bernie doing just slightly better at 20%. Kamala Harris, same number at 14%. Elizabeth Warren does take a slight step back here to 10% support. Taking a look at the trend lines for these candidates, and you can see Joe Biden going down quite a bit in recent weeks, now down to 31%. Where just a couple weeks ago, before the first debates, he was at 38%. He peaked there at 40% support, but he's actually pretty similar to where he was before he even came out and made his announcement. And we see Bernie Sanders has been consistently at around that 19% support number for the last couple of months. The other candidates, Elizabeth Warren, we've seen her numbers go up a bit, that positive trend line to 13% support right now, and quite a stark positive trend line after the first debates. We saw Kamala Harris just at 6% before the debates. Now she's up to 14% support. And taking a look, it's also interesting to see where these voters could migrate if they don't want to support whoever their current top option is. And Biden, with that 31% number in the polls right now, you really want to be his second option because that's the largest group of people that you could pull from. And Sanders doing pretty well, the second choice of Biden supporters at 28% support, which is kind of surprising. Really, both of these, the second option of Biden supporters and Sanders supporters, the fact that they're each other, it's just, I don't really understand it personally because they're so different in terms of the policies that they would propose. The only thing that they have in common really is the fact that they're both older white men. And maybe that's enough for some people just kind of looking at it on the surface instead of really diving into the policy of these candidates. But we take a look at Sanders' second option, Biden at 31%, Elizabeth Warren at 23 percentage points, Kamala Harris down there at 9 percentage points. And then Harris supporters, not a lot of love for Bernie Sanders amongst Harris supporters, where their second option is Warren and then Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg. And then with Warren supporters, it's Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and then Joe Biden after that. And then Buttigieg, it's Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden. But like I said, the most important thing is to be the second option of the candidates that are doing the best in the poll. So that would be Biden and Sanders, and they're both each other's second option. So if you get a situation where Biden continues to not do so well in the debates or have these gaffes, really Sanders could benefit quite a bit from this. For instance, back in those debates that we just had, Kamala Harris coming right for Joe Biden, attacking him very effectively. That pushed her numbers up. And if people are, maybe not quite as sure if they're going to be voting for Biden, they see that Kamala Harris attacked him. Maybe that makes them not want to support somebody like a Kamala Harris. Maybe then they go to somebody like a Bernie Sanders. That could be an opportunity for him to try to boost his way up in these polls in the coming weeks. We'll see how that all plays out. Now, something that I found really interesting in this week's morning consult numbers, Bernie Sanders, I believe this might be the first time where he has the best overall approval. Last week, it might have also happened. I can't quite remember if that was the case, but nonetheless, Bernie Sanders with the strongest overall positive favorable differential here. So 75% favorable, better than any other candidate, and then compared to 18% unfavorable, just 1 point better than Biden, who's at 74% favorable to 18% unfavorable. And you can still see that a lot of these candidates have some ground to make up where people have heard of them, but they don't have an opinion, or they just have never heard of these other candidates. It kind of blows my mind that 10% of people responding to this poll, for instance, haven't heard of Elizabeth Warren or haven't heard of Kamala Harris at 15%. And so on and so forth. Still ground that these other candidates can perhaps make up, for instance, and try to close in on Sanders and Biden, who are doing very well in terms of their overall positive favorability. And that is all of the numbers that I wanted to go over in this particular morning consult poll. Now, there also is an Emerson poll that just came out today, and the numbers are a little bit hard to explain. It feels like it might be a little bit of an outlier, and you can get this from Emerson polling given the fact that they have such a small sample size of just 481. Sanders tends to do pretty well in a lot of these Emerson polling results. Not so much the case this time around, where he's taken a step back, and he's very similar to Harris and Warren, all of them at 15%, Joe Biden at 30%. But the reason why I'm not totally sold on these numbers is because we take a look at the breakdown in age demographics, and Biden in this particular Emerson poll leads all candidates amongst the youngest age demographic of 18 to 29, where he's at 26% support compared to Sanders, who's at 24%. And this is a big outlier from what we tend to see amongst this younger age demographic, and probably the main reason that you can explain why Sanders took quite a big step back in this round of Emerson polling numbers in comparison to the prior one, where he was at 27% support, down to 15% in this one. He really didn't have a bad debate performance by any means, pretty steady as he went, and he hasn't had any bad gaffes or anything along the way, so it would be pretty shocking to see such a stark contrast in the numbers from where Sanders has typically been in these Emerson numbers. And then also taking a look at these head-to-head results between Trump and some of these top-tier Democratic candidates. The Democrats not doing quite as well this time around in their head-to-head with Trump in comparison to the prior Emerson poll. So we see Biden a 6% lead, Sanders a 2% lead, Warren losing by 2 percentage points, Harris losing by 2 percentage points, and then also Pete Buttigieg losing by 2 percentage points. So I just wanted to quickly touch on this Emerson result. And again, not quite the same sample size, so you can get these fluctuations in the results. It is within the realm of reasonability in comparison to these polls that have more people that respond. So that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Consider subscribing for more, and I hope to see you guys back here for my next video.